Greetings. I am Barbara E. Ringrose. I'm the founder of Wow Women, Optimizing Women, and you have arrived at our YouTube channel at wowwomenus.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wow is all about women and a community of professional women that come from a variety of different backgrounds, and they have found a special place through Wow, whether it's a virtual meeting or an in-person meeting. Not doing as many in-person meetings these days because we have found the virtual opportunities are endless here. And to note that, that's how I meet special ladies like Terri Moore. Thank you, Terri, for coming on with me today. And can you tell everybody where you're from?
I am from the great state of North Carolina. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Nice. But you didn't live there forever. That's, if I remember correctly, you moved there rather recently, correct?
Right. 5 years ago, we moved from Indianapolis, Indiana. I had a dream and a vision, and off we went.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's so cool that we follow our dreams because there's so many things that can happen in life. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about, because each time I meet with ladies, they have so much and they are so multifaceted, you being one of them. And we talked about, well, what are we going to do with this episode here? Because we want a lot of people to realize that they're not in whatever situation alone. So we're going to go from trauma to triumph because finding health and finding faith, healing the joy in life's hardest moments, they're some of the takeaways that you're going to provide today as we speak.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me again.
Well, 100%. This is going to be kind of like a powerful, heart centered conversation, I think, as we sit down together and talk, because some of the things that we're going to discuss, you can't help but realize that through personal trauma, there's a lot of emotion that comes from within. Sometimes the mental images that we have, and you bring forth that raw honesty about things that's happened to you and the faith-filled perspective that you come to this journey. And I'm sure you still have other things that you plan on doing in the future as well. So talk to us about, how does trauma shape us? What does that do and define us?
Trauma, great question. Trauma can define us in so many different ways. Trauma can start as early as 5 years old, which happened to me. Because I was up against a bully in kindergarten that stripped me of my self-confidence, like within 5 seconds, asking me, why does my hair look like it's been put in a light socket? Why are your clothes so like it came out of a dumpster? And why are you so ugly? So that trauma just carried me right on into high school. So I was never popular because I didn't believe in myself because other people were not believing in me. And so that can start that spiral going downhill. And yes, I've had much trauma in my life, and I'm sure you're going to ask me questions on that. But one of the things that I find as a resilient coach is, and a speaker, is that I find so many women that don't understand that their past is defining them today. And I see a lot of encouraging quotes, like on these little pieces of wood, and it says, don't let the past define you. Well, that's a lot easier said than done. And because if you are still trapped in your past and you're not growing and you're not changing into that person that you were created to be, you are still hanging on to a lot of emotional triggers. And that could be sexual molestation as a child. That could be different things going on. Like me, I've had some specific trauma going on in my life. And so I let it define me for many, many years until I got to the point where it was like, this is not worth it. I'm stuck. I don't know who I am, and I want to move forward. So that great question.
So practical mindset shifts, in essence, is what happens because families too can do that, where
Absolutely.
they have the ability to even bully within the family.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily have to be external, like in the classroom setting or outdoors on the playground. It can be within your own family, and that can somewhat traumatize somebody, hold them back, even more importantly, from them being successful or living a joyous life. And you found that you could reclaim your joy through your process. How did that work? How did it happen?
Oh my. How did I claim my joy? Well, I went through a domestic violence marriage that, first of all, was very traumatic because, my ex husband had told me he'd been in the Marine Corps for 9 years before we met. And then I find out 3 months into our blissful marriage that he was actually in prison for first-degree murder.
Mm.
And you talk about your world shattering like glass. My joy was gone. And, during that time, 2 days later, after my divorce was final, I went to a shopping center to go get some makeup to cover my bruises on my face and to buy a couple pieces of wardrobe to make myself feel better. And then a man approached me with a knife and walked me back to my car and, drove me around the parking lot. And it was just a very traumatic situation. And so, again, any joy that I was starting to climb to get again, it was gone. And so those two incidents had really squashed um, my emotions right out of me. I lost my identity, my self-worth, my self-respect, everything. And so the only way I found my joy back is and when I'm on stages, Barbara, across the United States, there is not a pin drop. People are on the edge of their seat when I'm about ready to tell this story. So as that guy had the knife to my throat, and I was scared out of my wits. I didn't know if my life was over with or not. And so basically, because the reason I'm saying that is because there was a woman that was murdered and stuffed in a trunk in the same shopping
Oh, my
center 3 weeks
goodness.
before me. So I didn't know if I was dealing with the same perpetrator. I just knew my life was at stake. And he threatened me when the security guard came down and said, make one false move and your life is over with. And so I had only one option left, and that was to pray. And so I said, God, I don't know who you are. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug dealer. I'm a pool hustler. I smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day, different things like that. But if you get me out of this situation alive, I will turn my life over to the remainder of my days. And it was not more than 2 seconds later that knife came off my throat. He opened the car door and told me to get out. And so next thing I know, he was moving my car into a parking space that I had no idea where it was, but he said he was going to keep my car inside the shopping center and then I can do whatever I want. So I did, and I sent him to prison for 30 years. And after that, I told God that, like I said, if he gets me out of this situation alive, I'll turn my life over to him for the remainder of my days. 3 weeks later, I was working at a restaurant as a waitress, and a woman kept asking me different questions about me. I had no idea why she was asking me these questions,
Mhm.
but come to find out, I actually partied with her in high school. And so I knew that she had a transformation or a facelift or something. So she invited me to her boyfriend's Bible talk. And so the rest is history. As of July of this year, I'll be walking with the Lord and for 39 years and loving every moment of it. And that's why I was able to get my joy back.
That is something you always have to take a deep breath to kind of consume that. For people who have not experienced that, well, they see these things on shows, for instance, on TV, the cop shows and so forth, or whatever channels they watch, forensic files. It's hard to believe that people can really survive this. And I know through my own personal experience many years ago, that it was getting on my knees and prayer that actually got me through those days that were very heavy. And that was on within inside of my own house. So I can appreciate what you're saying 100%. And finding joy, you found that. So you move and you're in North Carolina and you're finding so much joy in other ways, like doing things you never did before.
You got that right. North Carolina has a lot of adventure, and I am really working hard to build my business, continually build my business out here. And I've been blessed by having many speaking engagements out here because I am a keynote speaker, and it's just been it's just been a different pace. And Indianapolis was all corn. So I love it out here because, we're 3 hours from the beach, we're 2 hours from the mountain. I just got home from the mountains. And, it's just a beautiful, beautiful state. And that's brought me a lot of joy as well. Yes.
Kayaking. Kayaking.
Kayaking. Love kayaking. And here's the funny part about me kayaking. I'm the only one when we go to do a kayaking party that keeps getting stuck. So people have to come and bail me out.
That's funny. And just like enjoying and soaking in all the lake life,
Yes.
which, like you
Yeah,
said, you're in the middle of a cornfield. Now you're in the middle of the water life.
right. And we love to go listen to live music. We have our favorite bands out here. We have a group we hang out with. We dance, and that's where I get my exercise. So yeah, there's a lot of great things going on right now.
One of the stories you told me about was you were a pool hustler in Indianapolis. How in the heck did you get into being a pool hustler?
Okay. So I started playing pool in my basement with my dad at 5 years old. And one of the things that happened to me when I was going through my domestic violence marriage, he was holding me hostage in the house. And
Hmm.
so when he was at work, I found this bar up the street and I needed to just bring some money in because I was trying to make my escape out of this horrible marriage. And so I would go up to these bars and I hired a coach, a pool playing coach, and he got me really, really good. And these men would come in and they would say, "Well, I'm here to see Terry Bracken." And I'd be, "Well, that's me." And they'd say, "Oh, this is going to be a cakewalk." No, 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 no. They walked out with their tail hanging between their legs. I think I said that right. And $2,500 poor.
Oh my God. That was some serious money.
That's some serious money, and I became well known in the state of Indiana. Yes.
So, as I remember too, you talked about your dog Lily. So, a lot of ladies I know, they're multifaceted, and they're also fascinating. And one of the things is a lot of them are pet owners, and you really treasure your little pup there, Lily. It seems like you're inseparable.
Yes, I am still grieving over the loss of my sweet dog, Lily, that passed away in February, and it's been hard. It's been really, really hard, but I feel so blessed because I found a lady that needed a pet sitter. And so I have her dog pretty much most of the time during the week. And her name's Scarlet, and she's a Chorky. So that's a Chihuahua and a Terrier. She is underneath my desk right now, sleeping away. And she has just brought so much joy into our life, so much that my husband has decided we can get another dog because if we were not going to get another dog, he was going to have a hard time with his wife. Because
I
I've never been.
I agree with you. Even though my little kitty, Miss Kitty, she adopted us in 2020. It's been nice having her around the office as long as she doesn't climb in my lap and start clawing me. She has some rather sharp claws. So there's a lot of takeaways here. When you experience trauma, finding ways to deal with the trauma. And you talked about the speaking engagements that you were having, and now you were telling me in a recent conversation that you want to do more speaking engagements. What type of engagements are you looking for? And if somebody is interested in reaching out to you, what would you offer them as far as maybe some topics or some considerations for a speaking engagement?
Great question. I am an empowerment speaker. So I am like a motivational storytelling speaker. But if it's like a corporation, I keep it to being a motivational speaker. put my story in a little bit there. I speak to faith and non-faith organizations, companies. I speak to women's retreats. I do workshops for people. I do fundraisers and galas. I do women's conferences. And so I love being on stage because I want to empower, especially women, because that's really my main audience, is to know that they don't have to keep themselves as a zero, feeling so low self-esteem, because my goal as a speaker and a resilient coach is to get them to look in the mirror and give themselves a loud and proud 10.
And it's interesting the way so many ladies find their way to wow. And you found your way to wow, and how
And I
yeah, we have that crossover, different people that we meet, for instance.
Mhm, absolutely. I I love WOW. Barbara, you do such a great job, and you and Quincy. I have been so honored to be your guest on, another podcast,
Our
and
Optimize
just
Her 2 podcasts. Yeah.
right, and being in the mastermind group and, on Mondays and then Fridays, and I look forward to meeting as many women as I possibly can there, and, just working together, collaborating, helping each other with referrals. That's what I'm all about. I'm a networker. And, there's so many women, probably even in WOW, that are still stuck in their past.
I would
And so,
agree. I would
yeah.
agree.
So I hope, every time I speak in WOW, that people gravitate to maybe think about, maybe they do need to hire a coach, or they know of the speaking engagement that they can help me with, and so forth and so on, like that. And the other thing, Barbara, I wanted to mention is my movie's coming out in May. Blessed Beyond My Scars is finally coming out. And this is about how I went from a zero to becoming a resilient woman. And I've already had the private premiere and went over really, really good. So my film producer told me the other day that it will be out in May,
Well,
and
where will it launch,
it
Terry?
will launch on social media.
It'll be on social
Yes,
media. I've met other ladies who told me that they have somebody who found them, discovered them to do a movie, and I just
yes,
find that amazing that you've had the opportunity for somebody to hear your story.
yes. I was on a networking call yesterday with a brand new group, a Christian women networking,
Mhm.
and I ran across a filmmaker. So she and I are having a conversation here in a couple weeks.
I love it, love
So
it. Um,
yes,
also, a lot of ladies I'm meeting these days are authors. I myself created a book. It's called Aruba Vacation with Aruba Joe. Anybody can find it on Amazon. But one of the things I've noticed too, a lot of ladies, professional business women, they're doing these podcasting, which I love. I love the podcasting piece because I can showcase so many different ladies, not just here on this YouTube channel for Wow, but also on her Optimize Her too. And then I can be guests, like you can be guests on these other podcasts. So you don't even have to leave the comfort of your office. Although getting out amongst the living, which I think a lot of people really miss that after 2020, and getting out there to meet these people, that's a really, really great feeling to, like you
yes,
said, you have people in the audience to embrace them and they can feel the power and the energy in the audience. Like you mentioned, people, you could hear a pin drop when you were talking about what happened to you and the particulars of those moments or those minutes that you spent with this stranger in your car in the parking lot. Powerful, powerful things that women experience. And then they have the ability to turn them around and do something so helpful to other ladies. And that's what we do at WOW. That's what you do, Terry, in your world. And it's that educating, elevating, and it's empowering ladies. But we're building these deep relationships. And we're getting a lot from these relationships. And you talked about the referring opportunity. Wow, and ladies like yourself like to support
hmm
other women in whatever way is possible. because I never want someone to feel, and I'm sure you feel the same way. I never want someone to feel that they're at the end of their rope, or when they've reached the end of their rope, that no one cares, because there's plenty of ladies like ourselves that do care. And we would love to have the
Right.
opportunity to embrace them and speak with them. A lot of different things.
Yep.
So, interestingly enough, your past doesn't have to define you. The definition of who you are looks a lot different, for instance, than who you were. And
Right.
you seem to have no limit. The healing, it's possible. Joy, for some people, it takes a lot longer for them to do that. And it seems like
Yes.
it took a lot longer because you had trip number one, trip number two, trip number three. You had a succession thing of trips, if you will, instances where it tried to hold you back, but you wouldn't let that happen, Terry.
No, no. I ended up having to be my own cheerleader because my mom and dad, they would more or less make me feel like I was not enough than be my cheerleader. And it just went on and on. So my whole life was really I'm the only one that was my cheerleader until God came into the picture. And now he's my cheerleader and he helps me get through these days. And I want to say this is that every time that you share your story, it's a healing process. And this happened to me years and years and years ago, but every time I tell this story, it's healing me more and more. So I don't speak out of my scars, I speak out of my wounds, you know? So, because we'll be carrying these wounds the rest of our lives. It's just how you want to walk in, how you want to walk in life that way. You want to be a victim? Because when people come to me and want me to coach them, they're a victim. And so what I do then, I move them into that survivorship.
Right.
And then I move them into that thriving ship. And I could tell you stories after stories after stories of people that I have helped along the way that are now pilots. You know, they're writing books, they're on stages. They came to me and they were a zero, and different things like that. And, you know, I don't ever want to boast as my talent, but I feel this is a God given talent.
Well, I'm gonna
I
I'm gonna like just do a short clip of your proud moments in your life from what I know. And you were a best-selling author of Face to Face with God, My Best Friend, which again, a
yes,
lot of ladies like myself, like you, we write books, professional business women. It's what we do. It's part of who we are. It's an extension of our professionalism and our skills that we've learned along the way. And you're a certified transformational coach and professional speaker, as you've talked about here. A lot of people that are in coaching may not necessarily have the same type of skill sets that you have, because yours is more geared towards those trauma episodes that people are trying to overcome, and it is possible. And sharing what you do, the stage, what, Casting Crowns in Indianapolis, you had that opportunity. You said you had an audience of 8,000. That's that's a big audience, Terry. That was a really big audience.
that was a night I'll never forget because I had met Casting Crowns prior to this. And when they were in the living room of the lead singer, Mark Hall, they were trying to figure out where they wanted to go and what charity they wanted to serve. Well, it just so happened that Casting Crowns was at a place trying to meet all the teen leaders of organizations, nonprofits, and I happened to be leading one at the time. And it was amazing because I gave somebody a brochure. I didn't know he was the band leader. I mean, I didn't know he was in the band, but he kept it in his briefcase and he pulled it out. He goes, "Hey, let's do Beacon of Hope and in Indianapolis." So next thing I know, I'm getting a call from their promotion a manager, and I felt literally fell off my chair when he told me that they were going to do that for me.
Oh, that
And
was a kudos to you, and such respect coming from someone when they tell you that. It makes you feel that emotional joy, especially a compliment as great as that. So, if people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way? I always ask ladies in WOW, What is your how? How do you want people to get in touch with you, Terri?
They can go through my website at www.terrimorecoaching.com. So just use my name, when you see this podcast. And the other way you can do it is by finding me on LinkedIn, finding me on Facebook. If you go to Terri Moore Coaching Services, I have a coral and turquoise sweater on. That's the way you find me because there's a lot of Terri Moores out there. And the other way is just, go to my website. I got my contact information on there.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
probably the
best
best
way.
thing. Either website
Yeah.
or LinkedIn. I find that typically with most ladies. So I guess the big wow takeaway here is, and this is wow ladies, wow members, and even those gentlemen that decide that they want to watch podcasts like what we're doing here on YouTube with wowwomenus.com. Your past doesn't have to define shape you. And it doesn't need to limit you because healing is possible. And I spoke with a woman who is a paraplegic earlier today. God bless her heart.
Mhm.
Her challenges are of a different nature. But even when life takes you on a different journey that you weren't anticipating when you were a young
Right.
person, and you certainly wouldn't want it for anybody else to go through that, joy is available. And your next chapter can be the most powerful yet. And I have a feeling, Terri Moore, as you and I communicate over the upcoming years, I'm going to hear a whole lot more of joy coming from you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I
Thank
thank you
you.
so very, very much. Take a look at Terry's book if you want to get it out there. I think it's important that we support ourselves. Reading is such a great way to get in touch with yourself. It's face to face with God, my best friend. Thank you all so
They
much.
Can I say one
Yes,
thing?
ma'am.
They need to order that through my website because Amazon messed my book up. So, and it's cheaper that way. And I get to sign it because I ship it out.
Nice.
So,
I
yes,
like that. I
all you
might
have to
have
do
to
is
do
go to
that for my book. Just
www.
do it through it that way. Well, thank you
Yeah,
again for your time.
you're welcome.
Quite a
Thank you for
pleasure.
having me.
Terry, enjoy, and we will talk to you sometime in the future. Everyone, thank you for joining us at YouTube at wowwomenus.com. Visit our website and take a look at our membership, ladies. We would love to have the pleasure of your company.
Yes.
Stay well.